What's up, guys? Back with another true story video for you guys. In the previous video, I talked about how I went to that abandoned house and caught that creepy creature or whatever, homeless man, ghost, whatever it was on camera, quote. But you know, I didn't actually get the footage, so it's worthless. But that was I'd say my scariest story. But this next story, and the only other encounter I've ever had that I can remember, is definitely up there with this one. This one, I know what I saw, and I know exactly who it was. So a little backstory. This was probably about 5 years ago, maybe 4, give or take. I lived in the same town I live in now, but I lived in a different apartment, and I had a roommate at the time. Now, this apartment was nothing out of the ordinary. It was a 2-story apartment building, you know, pretty normal roommates, everyone, or, you know, neighbors. And so, I remember one day, I came home from work, and I was going to take a nap. I was exhausted. And I was about ready to fall asleep when all of a sudden I heard a bunch of doors closing out in the front lawn, like the street right in front of my window. And I heard the, you know, big engines, like big vehicles coming in, and I instantly thought, that's like a fire truck or an ambulance. No sirens or nothing, and I look out my window, of course, it is like 3 or 4 fire trucks, an ambulance, a cop, like 2 cops, and I see my landlord's vehicle out there. So there's a bunch of emergency crews out there. None of them had the lights on or nothing. There was just vehicles. And I said, well, that's weird. That much, you know, vehicles there with no, you know, lights or sirens, that's kind of out of place. And the landlord's here, which makes it even more weird, because usually when that happens, it's something that's probably pretty bad. And I instantly clicked. I said, there's probably a dead body. Someone died and they did a welfare check, which is why the landlord's here. Like, he probably is the one that found him and called the cops. And so I'm looking out the window, and they all come in the apartment building, and I can hear them under me. Like, they're in the apartment building right under me. I can hear them moving stuff around. I can hear them talking. So I go outside my apartment door, like my front door, into the hallway, and I look down, and they have it blocked off. You can't actually leave the apartment. They had tape, and they had, you know, cops and whatnot, and firefighters standing out in this hallway, and they didn't want anyone to leave the apartment. And I think I'll explain that later. I think I know why. But anyways, I go back into my apartment, and I go back to my window where my bed is, and I'm looking out, and then, you know, the firefighters come back outside, and they actually put on hazmat suits. And I'm thinking, okay, this is definitely a dead body, 100%. And so they get the hazmat suits on, they go back inside, and you can hear, the first part of it, there wasn't much noise, I guess. They went in, and they came back out with bags, like hazmat bags, which I guess I'll explain as well later. They come out with hazmat bags, and they put them in the side of I think they put some in the ambulance and some on the side of the fire truck, like in the storage things. And so I'm like, this is weird. Like, this guy below me must have died. And the guy below me lived by himself, and it was the older guy. He was probably in his mid-60s. He wasn't that old, maybe mid-50s. He wasn't, you know, that old. He still worked. And so then I hear the firefighters, like, chopping at the walls, with something. Like, I can hear banging on the walls. And what had happened is this guy had died of natural causes, a heart attack or, you know, something. He had been in his apartment and just died. A little, you know, unexpected. Died, and he was left there for probably a month, 2 months, 3 months. We don't really know. But he was left there long enough that there was a welfare check performed by the landlord, because he hadn't been paying rent or utilities or whatnot. And so the landlord became suspicious and decided to come check it out. As soon as he opened the front door, the smell overtook him, and he instantly knew there was a body inside. Now, people always ask me when I tell the story, how did you not smell that from your room if it's right below you? I never smelled it, and it could be, you know, one of those things where if you're slowly accustomed to a smell over time, you don't notice it as much. I don't know. There was no rotting smell that I knew of in our apartment, and I can probably confirm that because I had people over, and they never complained about it either. I don't know, but this body was so badly decomposed that they had to scoop him up with shovels and put him in those liquid hazmat bags, and there was no, I guess, real body. It was mostly jello, like, is what I could best describe it as. And so that's how and why they had to, you know, take him out that way. And when they were banging on the walls, it was because they had to strip the walls down and basically get everything that was contaminated out. I don't know if there was mold or what, but there was juices everywhere basically, and they had to pretty much remove all of that from the house, and that's why they were kind of putting some of those things on the side of the fire truck, whatnot. And anyways, so this guy below me had died, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Didn't think much of it, other than, you know, obviously that's kind of a big thing that happens, I guess. And so after a while, a couple hours, they you know, concluded their investigation, and they get back in their vehicles and they take off. And so I take my nap, I go to sleep. And really everything's fine for the near future. I wasn't expecting anything creepy to happen. I didn't think of anything like that. You know, and keep in mind, this is long before I started YouTube. I've always had a passion for ghosts and aliens and cryptids, I guess, but I've never in a million years thought it happened to me. And so at this time I worked at Target, and I had to work at 3 a.m. I had a 3 a.m. shift, or sorry, it was a 4 a.m. shift, but I had to wake up at 3 a.m. so that I could get ready for the day and go to work and make it on time. And so this is probably, I want to say, like almost at least 3 weeks to a month later. This is quite some time had passed. And like I said, nothing weird happened. But this one morning, I wake up and it's obviously pitch black out. It's still, you know, 3 a.m. It's dark out. And I go to, you know, get dressed in my bedroom. I turn my light on. I go out of my bedroom, and right across my bedroom is the bathroom. So I go in my bathroom, I brush my teeth, you know, I do my hair, I do all those things I need to do. Leave the bathroom, go back to my bedroom, and I kind of just sit on my bed for a little bit and scroll my phone. I had some extra minutes. I was just, you know, I don't want to be at work too early. And so I'm just kind of scrolling on my phone, and at the time I had my baby kitten. Tess is her name. For those who watch my channel, you know who I'm talking about. She was just a baby kitten at the time, this little cat. And she had just woken up, and she was coming up to me and rubbing against me, and she wanted some pets, so I gave her some pets. And so I was like, well, it's time to go, finally, after, you know, a few minutes. So I get up, I turn my light off in my bedroom, and I'm walking, you know, to the front door. Now, it's pitch black in my apartment. All the lights are off because my roommates were still sleeping, so I'm leaving with the lights off, obviously. And so basically, when you leave my, you know, bedroom, you hook a right, and it's just a straight shot to the front door. There's a living room to the right, and there's a kitchen to the left, but it's a straight shot to the front door. As I'm walking to this front door, again, remember, completely pitch black. The only light coming into my apartment was the shades with the moonlight. And I think there's a street light as well, but there was nothing besides those little lines in the wall, you know, from the, you know, the shades being down, and you can see the tiny little lines of light. That was it. And so I'm walking to the front door, and out of the corner of my eye, to the left, I see this figure, this giant black mass. And I look up and over at this thing, and it is this giant, blacker than black figure that is all the way up to the ceiling. Now, this thing definitely had a shape to it. It was like very wide, and it had, you could see like broad shoulders, and then it had a head, but there was no arms or legs. It just was kind of like a cape. I don't know how to describe it. It just was kind of a undefined figure, but it did look like it had a head and like shoulders. And so I freeze. I'm like, what? Like, because at the time I could tell that this was something not right. This is darker than dark. I can see it, and I know that's not usually there. I've walked past this door thousands of times to go to work, or, you know, whatever, in the night, in the dark, and I have never seen this thing here. This is out of place. This is not supposed to be there. And so I kind of look back, and I'm like, is there anything that would make this shadow or something? And I'm like, this is there. Like, I could see it. You can't even see through it. You can't see the paint on the wall. It's black. And so I'm like, oh crap. I'm terrified, and I kind of froze in fear, and I was just staring at it, and Tess just happened to be rubbing against my legs at the time. She didn't really care. She didn't know what was going on. So I slowly pick up Tess, and, you know, at the time we had a little game where I'd slide her across the hardwood floor in the kitchen, and she'd come running back to me, and I'd slide her back. She thought that was fun. It was a game that we played. And so I pick her up, and I'm looking at this thing, and I slide her across the floor towards it, because I want to see if it reacts, if it moves, if I'm just losing my mind. And, you know, I'd rather have a cat die than me, you know, obviously. You know, and so, you know, Tess can handle herself. She's a badass. And so I throw Tess to this creature, and nothing happens. It doesn't react. It doesn't move. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, maybe it's, you know, not a ghost. This is weird. And I was thinking at this time, guy died below me. This is weird. Like, this is creepy. And so I kind of look at my phone, and I shine my light. I think I shine, like, not the flashlight, but the light. Like, I just click my phone on it, and I shined the kind of light at it, and it was still there. It was just a black figure. And I'm looking at my clock, and I gotta go. Like, if I don't go, I'm gonna be late, because I'd taken those extra minutes to kind of scroll on my phone earlier because I didn't feel like going in too early. Now I'm at the point where I have to go in. And it felt like I was standing here for like 10 minutes, but in reality it was probably 2 or 3 minutes or whatever. And so I decide, fuck it, I'm just gonna walk to the front door. And so as soon as I start walking forward, I get to the front door, and I'm looking at this thing as I'm walking, and I'm shaking. I am terrified. This is scary as fuck. The whole thing, just this giant, 10-foot tall black mass just goes right through the floor. It just vanishes, right through the floor. And I shivered. I had like goosebumps instantly. I was like, oh my God, that was an actual fucking ghost or demon or whatever. And so I locked my apartment door. Now, luckily, all the lights in the hallways were lit, like they're all on. So there's no darkness, but I got outside and it's dark again. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I'm looking around because I can see this thing sprinting out of me, out of the woods that was nearby. There was woods near this apartment. So I get in my car, nothing happens. I turn my light on in my car, and I make sure to look behind me in the back seat, and I drive the whole way to work with that light on, like the whole time, because I was expecting to look in the rearview mirror and there's a thing behind me. I get all the way to work, nothing happened. In fact, nothing ever happened again. I never saw it ever again. It was just that one night I saw this giant black mass sitting there in the corner. And it was definitely terrifying. It was one of those things where it's flight or fight. And it was neither. It was just be there and deer in headlights, scared as shit. And I know a lot of you probably can relate to that. So, I've heard a lot of people having sleep paralysis. I've luckily never had that, and I hope I never do, because that is honestly one of the most terrifying things probably to happen in a normal person's life, right? And so that was the second thing I've ever experienced in my life that was paranormal or extraterrestrial or whatever you want to call the first experience I had in the abandoned house. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little series of me talking about my experiences. Again, if you guys have ever experienced anything yourselves, whether it's paranormal, extraterrestrial, cryptid, let me know down in the comments below, because I'd be interested to hear them. You can also tweet me, DM me on Instagram, whatever you want to do. Let me know, and maybe we'll share those stories out in another video. And so I think that'd be kind of fun to do. So without the way, guys, thanks for watching the video. Remember to like it and subscribe if you haven't already. Peace out.